It's that time of year. The summer heat has finally broken. There's a crispness in the air and a coolness in the evenings. Fall is here, or at least it's supposed to be. It's still been rather warm in my part of the world. Today it's a bright sunny day, kind of feels like a beautiful spring day right now. But I thought it's time to talk about some of the perfumes I look forward to wearing in cooler temps. We'll start off with the most recent purchase of mine, Cartier Le 13e Heure. I had tried this quite a few times over the years. I remember when I first became aware of the line, they were fairly plentiful on discounters for very good prices. This seems mostly due to a big changeover in the bottle design, and unfortunately they've more or less dried up on discounters today. You can still find the odd one here or there, but I had to finally break down and just purchase the full new bottle design at retail price. So what prevented me from buying this earlier? At the time, I remember thinking it smelled fairly similar to our 12, Le Mystérieux, which I do own. And I thought maybe this was a bit redundant. I had tried them side by side a few times, but I tried it some more last winter at the nice little Cartier counter they have here at Bloomingdale's. And it gradually won me over. I had it on my mind as soon as temperatures dropped and I finally bit the bullet. So what does it smell like? Like many of Les Heures, Mathilde Laurent creates some of the most unique and interesting and at times challenging fragrances in a designer exclusive line. I'm really impressed with the freedom that Cartier seems to give her to use the Les Heures collection as a playground for scent. I do think I'll do soon a video on the entire line, or at least the ones that I've smelled, so I won't say too much here. But it's got her famous green sort of mate note. I say famous because it's used throughout the line in several fragrances, like Le Fougere. I can't even pronounce it. It's like a French word for fougere, fougeuse. But anyway, this interesting hay-like green matched with a vanilla dry down, sort of an impression of like a very smooth and fine leather and a black tea. Really interesting fragrance. One of the things that sort of saves these from being unwearable is that there's such a smoothness, almost this like glassy, polished finish to them. So I think it's really interesting how she can take some otherwise quite challenging or odd smells and notes, but polish them to such a degree that it doesn't feel like much of a challenge to wear. So one of the most unique fragrances I've smelled. I do still maintain that it has quite a lot of similarity to Le Mystérieux, but that one has more patchouli in the base, whereas this replaces that with more of sort of a warm vanilla and this very smooth leather accord. Really interesting fragrance, difficult to describe as it is so unique. On to another fairly recent purchase, Comet. I've reviewed this and it's only grown on me since, but I feel like summer was just too hot and nasty for the delicate beauty of this perfume. I wore it again recently and was impressed all over again. If you like the idea of sort of a fluffy, musky cloud of sort of almondy comfort, then you need to try this fragrance. The way it wears reminds me of Boy, although the smell is not comparable, but both of them have this sort of sneaky longevity where they seem to just kind of hover around you and give you this beautiful, comforting halo of smell. I think comforting is one of the best words I can use to describe this. Those pillowy musks, that almondy accord is just really fantastic. The Les Exclusives can do no wrong in my eyes. In a similar vein, but a very differently executed perfume, I saw this sitting in my cabinet, L'Eau d'Hiver, largely unloved. This is the downside of maybe collecting too many fragrances, is that I know this smell very well because I tried it since my beginning of interest in fragrance and particularly in Frederic Malle, but I had a few nice large samples. Then I later had the travel size. So I'd worn it many times that when I got around to finding a bottle for a very good price, I already feel like I knew it very well, and I realized I've hardly worn this bottle at all, and it's time to correct that. So beautiful. I always get the image of like cold water running over stone with this one. It has, again, sort of that powdery softness to it. It has this really interesting sort of like white neutrality. Maybe I'm influenced by the name, L'Eau d'Hiver, water of winter. And the name is also sort of a riddle. Is it meant to be worn in the winter, or is it meant to be a cool perfume to cool you in the summer? But I find it's a little delicate for summer and a little cold for winter, so it's a perfect transitional perfume. It could smell a bit like lotion to me. It reminds a little bit of, just a classic like Nivea lotion smell, but that's no bad thing. As usual, Jean-Claude calibrates it just so that maybe the potential mundane is lifted to the level of elegance and art, and keeps it interesting, I believe, as well, with the addition of some spices. I remember there being, some kind of clove, just a hint of this like warming, slightly bitter spice just in the back, which keeps it interesting. On to another unloved one that spoke to me out of the cabinet. Not totally unloved, but I've had it for a very long time. Heeley's Chypre 21. If you like a Chypre, if you like a mossy, bitter dry down, you need to try this. I absolutely love the opening, which has a really great burst of like a fresh bergamot and rose, and then it dries down to sort of a almost bitter, mossy base. Sometimes the base is what prevents me from really truly loving it, but it's a really fantastic perfume, and I think Heeley needs more love. One of the last, if not the last, reasonably priced but excellent fragrance lines with really no modern BS at all to be found in the line. I don't think he makes a bad fragrance, and they're all really good, and he just keeps doing his thing, and I think we should support that. And here's another one that I've also had for a very long time, Vetiver Veritas. This has gotten a decent amount of wear because it is quite a strong and concentrated perfume. It's 100% natural. It's all vetiver. James himself, I believe, said that it was his personal perfume, was he liked to just swipe some vetiver oil, just neat, unadulterated on himself. It's also advertised as having a reverse pyramid where the more top-like notes like grapefruit come out in the end. It's sort of the deepest vetiver that I know. It has smoky facets, it has dank facets, it has damp facets. It's like a damp trudge through the forest. It's really beautiful. Challenging, I suppose, if you don't like vetiver. I once had somebody comment that it was the most hated perfume that I had shown them. But to me, it's, gorgeous vetiver. I need to get back to wearing it more often. On to one more relatively new purchase that I've spoken of, Ruade from Parfum d'Empire. It's my only one from the brand, though I have tried several. Another fantastically reasonably priced brand, often found at discounters, but even the retail for the fragrances, aside from this one, is quite reasonable. I had sampled this when it first came out because I was interested in sort of like a horsey oud smell and looking for some real ouds after getting quite into the Strangelove Discovery set that kind of had them on my radar. So I fortunately was familiar with it, and I really liked it when it showed up on discount. So a fairly challenging opening with that real strong barnyardy type of oud, but that goes away quite quickly, and I find the dry down just so smooth, even seductive, you could say, very suave, deep, leathery, woody, still sort of hay horsey, but nothing to me that's stinky in the dry down whatsoever, and just a gorgeous smoothness that I just can't get enough of. You may have had these experiences with certain perfumes where you just feel like you're basking in this glow of beauty as it just radiates off your body. And this is one of those perfumes that as you wear it, it just grows and gets better and better and better. Possibly because it is an extrait. It's a very thick and oily perfume. So if you try it and find it a bit challenging, I recommend you give it some time. On to the next one. While we're speaking of extraits, Amouage Incense Rory. This also just incredibly addictive and well done, straight ahead incense fragrance. What I enjoy about it is it's not overly smoky, and I really have come to enjoy the way an attar wears. Just a drop or two will do you. You can make the mistake of going overboard because, again, it takes some warmth and some skin to start radiating. You may not smell it that strongly at first, but truly one or two drops will start to pulsate and radiate for the entire day and then some. To me, the master stroke of this perfume is that it also lists oak moss in the base. I'm not sure if it's real or an oak moss accord, but it lends this really beautiful sort of deep dark greenery to the incense, which keeps it from being overly one note And just a gorgeous fragrance. Again, the kind of thing that I find addictive, and I just keep wanting to go back for more after I wear it. That can almost be a theme of these fragrances, is addictive smells. And I would describe Cuir Beluga as the same. Over the last year, I've kind of dived more into exploring the Guerlain L'Art et Matière, and I maintain that for the most part, they're not worth the price. I had tried them in the old bottles and found them not worth the price then, but there are some real elegant masterpieces within the line, particularly, in my opinion, the older ones, unfortunately. But Cuir Beluga is really a masterpiece of subtlety. I can see it easily being overlooked. It's a very quiet perfume, but it's just so elegantly done. It feels like a fine watch with many small parts just calibrated just so to all work together to create a beautiful experience. It's irisy, it's woody, it has an addictive soft vanilla dry down. It has a freshness in the opening. It's a little bit like Dior Homme, if it was like the couture version of Dior Homme. But it is very quiet, but it's also extremely long lasting. The vanilla base lasts forever, but it becomes really a part of you as you wear it. And along that line as well, I kind of unintentionally have a theme here. Another one I realize I haven't given much love since I bought it, Cedarwood Heart by Austin's. I say along the same lines because I also feel like this may have been somewhat inspired by Dior Homme. I seem to remember one of the founders, Chris Yu, speaking of his love for Dior Homme. It's by no means a copy, but it feels in the same universe. The twist here is I feel like it has a good dose of galbanum, which adds a bit more ashiness. But I think this would fit perfectly within the current Celine lineup, particularly something like night clubbing. So it's cedar, it's iris, it's galbanum. It's just really beautiful. Again, really smooth and suave smelling. I really like the way the cedar comes out. The iris is detectable, but not very powdery. It gives more of like a earthy clay-like texture to it. But once again, it's the green that comes and adds that sort of extra touch that makes it, takes it from good to great. And speaking of great, I have a dirty little secret. Towards the end of last year, or was it last winter, coming into summer, when there was a panic about Chanel Parfum being discontinued, which I'm starting to believe is not true, or that they will come back in another form. Either way, we can bet they will be more expensive. I stocked up on Cuir de Russie Parfum. This is one of 2 bottles I have right now, and I do not exaggerate when I say this is the best perfume I have smelled in my life. I'm not a huge fan and never purchased Cuir de Russie EDP. It goes a little bit vintage for me, but the parfum is really revelatory, and I've held back on talking about it, maybe selfishly. I don't want to create a panic over something that is possibly discontinued, but it's so rich, it's so opulent in its florals. As it dries down, it becomes more and more similar to the Eau de Parfum. So I think the Eau de Parfum is not a bad swap, even though I said I don't like that and I love this, because you can feel the same structure in the dry down. But this is just like the richness and the opulence turned up. I think what I in particular love about this is the florals. It's that Chanel floral melange that you can't really tell exactly what floral it is. I presume it's a mixture of rose, jasmine, and ylang, and it's just so heartbreakingly beautiful. I can't think of, like I said, it's when I put 1 or 2 drops on, I just thought like, holy cow, this is perfume. So amazing. But it's one of those things, again, maybe so decadent, so fantastic that you don't want to wear it every day. You don't want to ruin it. But I haven't worn it in several months as it's been too hot for this scent profile. And I look forward to revisiting Chanel Cuir de Russie Parfum. So that's all for now. What I can't wait to wear if the weather ever does actually cool down, which so far it has not.